celebrating 30 years of phenomenal trend forecasting. Here's Gerald Celente with today's trends in the news.
Hi, this is Gerald Celente. It's Wednesday, March 18th, 2020, and here are some of today's trends in the news. On the market front, over there in Asia, down. Over there in Europe, down 4-5%. Here in the United States, Dow down 6.30%. NASDAQ down 4.70%. S&P 500 down 5.18%. The Dow is down almost 10% throughout the day. Silver's getting crashed. Gold's down. Oil, unbelievable. Really, really down. Let's see what's going on. Dow drops 1,300 points. S&P 500 loses 5%. Dow is down more than 2,300 points at the lows of the session. The S&P 500 closed nearly 30% below a record set. You know how long ago they set the record? Last month. All this in 1 month. Stocks came off their lows in the final minutes of trading after the Senate obtained the votes to pass a coronavirus relief plan to expand paid leave. This is going to do nothing. And again, in the final minutes, if you go back the last couple of Fridays, also in the final minutes. So the plunge protection team is there doing what they can. And as we all know, the Fed's dumping in more and more money. Trading was briefly suspended after a circuit breaker was tripped, halting trading across U.S. stock exchanges for 15 minutes. This is the fourth time they've done this in a week, all right? So you're gambling, and the gambling house is losing, so they stop the gambling. That's basically what's going on. Dow Jones reported on Wednesday that the Treasury Department is proposing 2 rounds of direct payments to citizens, which total $250 billion. Those payments, according to the report, would begin April 6th. The number of confirmed U.S. coronavirus cases has jumped in the United States, you ready? To 6,400 cases. Most of the people recover out of a population of 327 million people, and the death count has just broken above 100. And again, when you look at the numbers, we're going to look at the numbers of who's dying, where they're dying. This is no pandemic, as I see it. Everybody else in the media sees it differently. Gold dropped nearly 3% on Wednesday as investors dumped precious metals in favor of cash after additional stimulus measures by the United States failed to calm markets hit by mounting fears over the economic downside from coronavirus. Economic downside, this is the greatest depression. And what are they going into? Cash? What kind of cash? The Federal Reserve is pumping in trillions of dollars worth of worthless cash, digital money backed by nothing and printed on nothing. They're getting out of gold because they're going broke. And they're putting it into margin calls, into losses. That's why they're dumping out of gold. Gold right now, as I see it here, is at $1,487. It lost $40 today. If it goes below 1,450, as I've been saying now for many, many months, the next downside is 1,380, as I see it. But this is a whole new game, so it could go anywhere. But for me, speaking only for myself, I do not give financial advice. Gold is the best safe haven asset for me. The motto of the Trends Journal, think for yourself. You want to go into cash, you think cash is great, knock yourself out. So, U.S. Federal Reserve on Tuesday said it would reinstate a funding facility used during the 2008 financial crisis to get credit directly to businesses and households on fears of fears of liquidity crunch due to the virus. You know what that is?
That is bullshit.
That's right. It's not going to go to households. It'll go back to the banksters like the $29 trillion that they secretly funneled in, according to the Levy Institute, between 2007 and 2010. What else do we have here? Oil dropped 24% to a more than 18-year low on Wednesday as the coronavirus pandemic continues to slap demand for crude. This is from CNBC. And as rising worries about a global recession lead to fears of a longer-term demand destruction. Not a global recession. This is the greatest recession. The coronavirus has changed the course of history. What's going on, we've never seen before. You know how I talk about this great hotel that opened up next to me, the Kinsley, 13 steps away, go to the road. Wonderful place, beautiful. You'd be sitting in Paris. It's grand. The guy I'm walking by today is really down. I think I'm going to get fired soon. People are calling up, canceling reservations. What are all of these people going to do, from the barber to the butcher to the waitstaff to the chefs, all the way up the line? What are people going to do? How are they going to pay their rents? To me, it's pure insanity that we have politicians deciding our future, but the insanity is only the way I think about it. The masses believe it, I would say 80 to 90%. Good friends of mine argue with me that the governments are doing the right thing. And then they put up all of these celebrities telling us what to do. Do you think I give a good damn that Tom Hanks is out of the hospital and his wife? International benchmark crude shed 14.1% to trade at $24.67 an ounce. So oil-rich countries are going broke. The oil-rich countries that are broke already are going to even be more broke. We are going to see war, we are going to see violence, and we are going to see crime levels like we have never experienced in our lives. When people lose everything and have nothing left to lose, they lose it. And they're going to be losing it around the world. Desperate. Desperate. They'll do anything. Can you blame them? U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude fell 24.4%, or $6.58, to settle at $20.37. This is an 18-year low. EU nations announce huge rescue packages. France, Spain, the UK have unveiled emergency packages, including direct payouts, blah, 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 blah. Europe's fiscal remedies risk deepening its economic gap. The stimulus moves, which come on top of increased government spending, automatically triggered during the downturn, could help fiscally sound countries, including Germany and the Netherlands, to weather the growing economic crisis, but it might not alleviate hardships from weaker countries such as Italy that's in complete lockdown. They arrested 2 people for having sex in a car outside of Milano. They were breaking the law by not being inside. Again, whether it's following Mussolini or Conte, whether it's following Sanchez or anybody else, the people are marching to the orders. Again, the people that are dying in Italy, according to all the data, are elderly. The central bank's Monetary Policy Committee lowered its main one-week repo rate to 9.75. Turkey has repeatedly reduced interest rates over the past 8 months, even as a recent uptick in inflation pushed real rates into negative territory. Got it? Airlines appeal for $200 billion lifeline. So what this is, it's socialism for the rich and the big, and capitalism for the everyday people. They get all the breaks. Why are the airlines better than anybody else? Oh, no, you know who we are? Hey, they were making all those profits. Yeah, their profits away, all those stock buybacks. So things go bad, they're saved. Things go bad, you're the slave. Chesapeake takes action on $9 billion debt pile. Chesapeake Energy, a highly indebted pioneer in the U.S. shale industry. It's all in your Trends Journal. The numbers are there. The debt load in the oil and shale industry. The corporate junk bonds. The corporate debt. A recession. This is the greatest depression, the likes of which we've never seen in our lives. Public debts. Leveraged loan prices sink as investors' uncertainty rises. Uncertainty. U.S. leveraged loan prices have sunk to their lowest levels since the financial crisis as investors reassess the ability of companies to service heavy debt in light of the coronavirus outbreak. Assess the ability. How are they going to pay it? How are they going to pay it when everything's shut down? Streets of San Francisco empty as 7 million are ordered to stay home. Who ordered them to stay home? Politicians and the little flunky. I'm the Department of Health flunky that they brought in to tell you what to do. Where is the data to support this? As you saw in your Trends Journal, who's closing one thing down for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 3 days, 8 days, 12 days? They're making this stuff up. There's no data to support anything that they're doing, not one piece of quantitative data. And the people are following. Several counties ordered that the people stay inside and leave their home only to obtain or perform vital services, health officials said. With more than 20 confirmed infections and 5 deaths. 5 deaths. So what was the headline? 7 million are ordered to stay in for 5 deaths. Please tell me, what am I missing? Oh, Salenti, it could get way worse. How long has this been going on? Oh, end of December. Started making the news in January, February, March. How many people have died in the world? Oh, over 8,000. Out of how many people in the world? 7.7 billion. But it could get worse. 5 deaths, locking people in their homes. 7 million. And the people obey. German investors' confidence lowest since financial crisis. What took them so long? IRS extends April 15th deadline for payments. Isn't that great, huh? How are people going to pay their bills? How are people going to pay their rent, their mortgages? How are they going to buy gas and food? Well, they don't have to worry about buying food. They bought all that stuff up. They got enough for a year. Keep eating that canned stuff. Plans in works to help pay the bills. The growing risk that millions of businesses and households won't be able to pay their everyday bills, rents, payrolls, utilities, as business activity grinds to an unprecedented halt. Now, as restaurants close, airlines stop flying, and streets are empty, businesses and households have a similar pressing problem. The money just isn't coming in, but bills still have to get paid. So look at the data in your Trends Journal. What is it? 4 in 10 Americans don't have $400 for an emergency expense? 70-something are living paycheck to paycheck. And then you go around the world, and it's not much better in a lot of places. Malls in urban areas start to see big toll amid store closings. Houston's commercial real estate set for shock. Houston's, the whole real estate market is going to go down. The streets are empty. People are at work. How are they going to buy houses? It's all over, especially in the high-end places that really went up since the panic of '08. ESPN waives fix for fans. Walt Disney Company ESPN has come up with an answer to questions that have bedeviled media executives for the past week. What does a sports network do when there are no games to show? You know what they could do? Nothing. Nothing. Closed. Concerts, theaters, events, dead. Trillions and trillions of dollars lost. Mining companies restrict operations. Four of the world's largest miners said they are closing production or slowing project construction as fallout from the coronavirus pandemic reaches beyond the sector's share prices to some of its most isolated mines. Epidemic, pandemic, 8,000 people have died. And most of them, the people that get the virus, are cured. Retail sales dim, but steeper drops loom. So, you're going to see these places like Marshalls and TJ Maxx and all the other places that sell the leftover stuff that the big name brands couldn't sell. They're going to be packed. You go boss for a buck. That's right. A flood of product. Deflation. Deflation's coming. Struggling restaurants, hotels, and airlines propel U.S. economy towards a slowdown. Financial Times, slowdown, meltdown. One place after another. The Stranger, an indie newspaper in Seattle, which relies on ads for the places to which crowds go, similarly reported that it had temporarily laid off 18 of its staff. Broadway theaters, baseball stadiums, and the American Dream Mall, a shopping center near New Jersey, have closed. On and on. Cuomo, de Blasio clash on quarantine. Two little jerks. Two arrogant, stupid, low-life pieces of crap, as I see them, and you think for yourself. I used to know Andy Cuomo. Met him when I used to run political campaigns in Westchester County as a youth at a graduate school. I knew his brother Chris when I used to do all the media. He's on CNN now. De Blasio, a guy with a popularity rating of 32% in New York City, tried to run in the presidential reality show. He didn't even make it through the first round. He's such a jerk. And these two are arguing about closing down the city. Isn't that great? New York Governor Andrew Cuomo and New York City's mayor delivered conflicting messages Tuesday whether city residents should be forced to shelter in place. Isn't that a nice term? Shelter in place. Italy's family-oriented model put to test. Story about this, but the reason I want to read this here. Around 23% of Italy's population is aged over 65, the largest proportion in the EU. More than 4 million Italians are aged 80 or over. As of Friday, 35% of those who have died from the coronavirus in Italy were aged between 70 and 79, 45% between 80 and 89. And most of them were ill. Germany shuts all but essential shops. Ms. Merkel declined to say how long it would last. The more people comply with these restrictions and regulations, the quicker we'll get through this phase. What about 28 people died in Germany at a population, what? Of 80 million? How long will it last? Hey, I'm the chancellor. I'll tell you how long. France locks down further. We are at war. We are at war, says a little Catson Macron. All right? Another guy with a popularity rating of nothing. The people can't stand him. We're at war. You got it. Read your Trends Journal. Heil Hitler, march to Mussolini, follow Stalin, and your Macron, and your Sanchez, and your Conti. We are at war. The enemy is invisible, and it requires our general mobilization. Bum, ba, ba, ba. Bum, ba, ba, ba. Joe Biden, now the race, Sanders is gone. Biden's winning all the primaries. We are at war, Biden said with the virus. We are at war. You got it? They're going to keep using this term. They have put the war spirit in the people's minds. The people are marching behind their governments. We are at war. And another one over here. Here's this guy, Bill Ackerman. This is this guy, this big investor, they call him, investor gambler. Urged President Donald Trump and corporate America in an impassioned plea on CNBC to shut down the country for 30 days. What's scaring the American people in corporate America now is the gradual rollout. We need to shut it down now. This is the only answer. Who the hell is this guy to tell me this crap? You know what he said? He had a nightmare. And that's why he's doing this. I'm not making it up. You ready? The president is not saying storm the beaches of Normandy right now. He's saying to go home. Go home. Spend the month with your family. Storm the beaches of Normandy. Do you see where this is going? They are taking complete control of our lives. And the people are giving it to them. But don't believe the people. Don't believe the facts. Don't believe anything. You know why? Breaking news. EU report warns of Russia disinformation campaign. Russian pro-Kremlin media have mounted a significant disinformation campaign to aggravate the coronavirus pandemic crisis in Western countries by destroying confidence in the emergency response, said an internal EU report. Hey, it must be true. The crisis and who is spreading the significant disinformation and aggravating it is the mainstream media and the low-life politicians. Here's a list. This was printed actually from CNN. These are people that died. A man in his 50s who was hospitalized at the Evergreen Health Medical Center. A man in his 70s died. He was hospitalized at the Evergreen Health Center and had underlying health conditions. A woman in her 80s. She had been in critical condition in Evergreen Health. A woman in her 90s. A woman in her 80s who lived in the something nursing home. A man in his 80s who lived at Ida Culver House. He was hospitalized. A man in his 80s. A woman in her 90s who lived in another rehabilitation center. A man in his 80s. A man in his 80s. A woman in his 80s. A man in his 80s. A man in his 80s, a woman in her 70s, a woman in her 90s, a woman in her 70s and 70s and 90s and 90s. All right? And Bronx school gets crash course in remote learning. I'm mentioning this because Interactive University, was one of my top trends that I wrote in my book, Trends 2000, back in 1996. It's a whole new world. The whole new world of interactive education has begun. The current system we have now was invented by the Germans to take the people off the fields and where they were making their own things and putting in centralized locations, taught them how to read, how to write, how to do math, and follow orders. That's the system we have now. A new system is going to be born from this. Interactive education. It's a trend you should watch, and just one of the many trends that you have in your Trends Journal. This is Gerald Celente, and that's some of today's trends in the news.